Hi, my name's Dave Padgett, and today is July the 11th, 2015, and I'm in Avon, Indiana with my dad, William Paul Padgett. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II. Dad, what can you tell us about where you grew up before the military?
In Newcastle, Indiana.
And what did your parents do there?
My father was a farmer when I was born, and when I was I was almost 12, we moved off of the farm down around New Lisbon, Indiana, south of Newcastle, about 6 or 7 miles south of Newcastle. We moved into the edge of Newcastle. My dad, in 1933, right after the Great Depression, he got hard on at the Chrysler Corporation, is the reason we moved to Newcastle. He quit farming, he sold all of his equipment and everything. And he bought 2.5 acres of land, and it already had a house on it, but he added on to that house, put extra. We had a 6-room home there at the edge of Newcastle. That would have been in we moved in there in December 1935, and that's where I was living when I went into the military.
Okay. Now, you had 2 brothers, Bob and Jim.
Yeah.
And then a sister, Pearl.
Right.
And then what did Bob do during World War II?
He was stationed out around, I think it was Travis Island or something like that, down around Galveston, Tennessee. Or
Galveston, Texas.
He was in the Coast Artillery. They were large guns. He was a mail carrier. I think he was a T5 sergeant. Well, no, it'd be a 2-5 corporal. And he was a mail carrier for his battalion, and I don't know what else his duties were, but.
Okay. And then what did your brother Jim do during the war?
He worked at Chrysler Corporation as a watchman there on their police force, or I think they call them watchmen.
Okay. And so you were going to high school when you got your draft notice in the mail. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
The day I graduated from high school, I got my Dear John letter to be examined for the military. And 1 week later, I went over for my physical, and I passed it, and I got a week off after that at home. Then I had to go report back over to Fort Benjamin Harrison, and I was there. Normally, you was only there about 3 or 4 days, but I was there about 2.5 weeks, waiting for shoes large enough for me to come in. I wore a narrow shoe. I think it was a 12, maybe a 13.
And
Yeah.
double A, huh?
Pardon me?
A large shoe size and very narrow, double A?
That might have been.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you're right, Dave.
Okay, so you were at Fort Benjamin Harrison. They were finally able to get you some boots that fit you. And then where did you go after Fort Ben?
Went to Fort Bliss, Texas, at El Paso.
Okay. And there you trained on the anti-aircraft artillery?
Yeah. I was on, well, I was first on radar down there, equipment, and later was on a machine gun, 50 caliber machine gun flying at low flying planes. Then I got over in after I got over in Europe, in France someplace, I went on the big guns.
Okay.
They were about a 12-ton gun, and I was a fuse setter. I set the fuse for these shells, which were about 2 foot long. On the end of the projector, there was I was keeping in touch with the radar, and I was keeping the dials set, and that they put that into a thing, and it set these the projectors so when they fired them in the air, they would go off right in front of the airplane, or among these German planes that was flying over.
So how long were you in El Paso, Texas?
I was there 10 months.
10 months?
Yeah.
And then you did more
went on
training in
maneuvers.
Tennessee?
Yeah, to Tennessee. I was on maneuvers for about 2.5 months. I injured myself there. I was on KP duty one day. This is way out in a field, like in a wooded area, as well as I remember. And there was a creek running down there, and I was sitting there buckling up my overshoes, and I slipped off of a rock I was sitting on. I went backwards into a creek. I threw out my hand. I think it was my right hand I threw out, and I cut it. I think it took about 6 stitches, and I was going around there. It was in a sling, and I couldn't do anything. So I asked for if I could go back to Newcastle for a week or so to Vegas, because I knew we was going overseas as soon as we got through there. And I got it, and I got home for a week. Then I went to American Red Cross and asked for an extension. I got another week. Then I reported back to Tennessee, where my outfit was, and I think it was about 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks. We were on our way to New York City to get on the Queen Mary to go to England, and it was a 5-day trip from New York City to Gourock, Scotland. Then we came down through Glasgow, Scotland, and down into Wales, in southern Wales, probably within 15 to 18 miles of the English Channel, and that's where I was when the invasion took place on what was that, June 6th?
Yeah, June 6th.
Of
1944.
1944. I wasn't in the group. They had enough men that they went in with not a full group of men in there, and I was behind for about 3 or 4 weeks. Then I went to across the channel, went into our landing was on Omaha Beach, but there was no action going on there right at that time. They had, that's where the part of the invasion was going in. As I went down over the side of the ship on these rope ladders down into the vehicles, the boats that launched us into the beach, there's a man's leg laying up beside the boat as I got in the boat there. I'll never forget that. And when we got off, we went up directly to Sherburne and got with my artillery battery group, which is about 180 men in a battalion. There was 4 battalions, and I was in the B battery. There's an A, B, and C, D batteries. I was in B battery, about 180 in that group. And of course we had a headquarters group. I suppose a total of, in the 128th anti-aircraft, there was something like, I'd say 800 people in that 128th battalion. I was in the First Army at that time when I first went to France. But while I was at Cherbourg, before the push-off down through France and through Normandy, I was put in Patton's army, the Third Army, and I stayed in that until the war was over. And we went south of Paris, and I was not actually in Paris until after the war was over, and I came back through there a couple, 3 times, I guess.
So you got kind of like reassigned to Patton's army, your company did, and
Yeah.
group, and then some of those people got called up to join in the Battle of the Bulge.
I was on a list to go up to the Battle of the Bulge, and I don't know how many there was, but they was needing extra men up there, and I went to my company commander, which was a captain, and I asked him, I says, if there's any way I can stay out of that Battle of Bulge, I'd really appreciate it. It was real cold weather, and I knew there was going to be a lot of things taking place, and for some reason my name come off the list. I think that was the hand of the Lord, you know, that helped me there.
So where were you when the war ended?
I was in Austria, around Litz, Austria, on the Blue Danube River. We waited there for, I think about 3 weeks, waiting for the Russians to join us, come and meet us to the point where they come, but we'd gone as far as we could go.
And then, since then the Army had you guard German prisoners for a while?
After the war was over, I was sent back to Le Havre, France, and I think it was about 3 months. I guarded prisoners and where they was unloading supplies off of ships there at Le Havre, and I guarded prisoners there that was working in these warehouses. They had working in these warehouses, taking stuff off and storing it in these warehouses. And we knew the war, we wouldn't probably be over there too much longer. And that warehouse, all that supply in there, I usually tried to get in the PX supplies, where you can get a lot of goodies and of course, we guys that was on guard duty, we knew they was going to turn that all over to the French, and we thought, well, we just have a little use of it too, you know.
All right.
So I when I was on guard duty, I got in the PX where they was unloading those, and I had this jacket on and had a drawstring around it, and I'd get different things, and but mostly cigarettes that was in cartons and stuff in there, because I wasn't supposed to be taking them, but everybody else was taking them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, we'd get those, and of course we would slide cigarettes even in our lunch in these K rations. There was packages of cigarettes in there, and you could buy cigarettes from the government for 50 cents a carton. There's 10 packages to a carton. I smoked a little bit. I never got the habit of smoking, but I did. I hate to have to say that, but I did. There was no smoking. Everybody back then was. And we would take those into Paris, France, and sell them in there on the black market. We got $20 a carton. So what we didn't steal, we bought, and we'd take them, a bunch of them into, when we went on leave into Paris, France, and sold them there. When we got off the Army trucks there in Paris, there was a group there wanting to buy whatever we had, you know.
So, while that's going on, the war in the Pacific is still taking place.
Yeah.
And all of you guys were wondering when you would get shipped off.
Yeah.
For the Japanese invasion.
We were supposed to come home for 30 days, is what they told us, and we'd ship out and go someplace in the South Pacific.
Okay. So that was something you worried about there.
Yeah, I preferred being in Europe instead of there was malaria fever and all kinds of stuff. All those people getting it down there. Of course, in Vietnam, and then there was this
Agent Orange.
Agent Orange.
Yeah.
I was talking to the guy here at the Hearth yesterday. That was a veteran of and he was affected with that Orange.
Agent Orange, yeah.
Agent Orange, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
didn't want any of that.
yeah. So, were you still in France when victory over Japan was announced?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so the end of the war with Germany and Japan's happened, and then how were you discharged from the Army?
Pardon me?
How were you discharged? What happened before you got back home?
Oh, I left Le Havre, France, and went up to and I guarded prisoners up there. Le Havre, went to Le Havre, France,
Okay.
and was up there a couple of months, I think. Then I went back to Southampton and got on a German luxury liner that had been in dry dock all during the war, that Germans, soldiers had built on there. And it took us 5 days to get back to the United States on this. I can't think of the name of the ship, but it was it had been originally a luxury liner. And I learned later, after, I think it was in February, about a couple months after I got home on that ship, I heard that ship had sunk during a storm around Le Havre, not Le Havre, but where I had been there in France.
Okay. So you landed in New York when you got back?
Yeah, we came back into New York, and I remember going out and coming back in, seeing the Statue of Liberty, which was something, really good to see, seeing that. We got on it after we got back and got off the ship. They put us on a train to take us back to about 30 miles south of New York City, at Camp Kilmer. And they took over, they gave us a new supply of clothing to be discharged in, and put us on a troop train. I think I was there about 3 days, and they put us on a troop train to come back to what's that one area was down there south of it, southern Indiana.
Camp Atterbury?
Yeah, we came back to Camp Atterbury, and I was only there a couple of days, and that's where I got discharged from on the 22nd of December 1945, and I got home 3 days before Christmas 1945.
So, how did serving in the military affect your life?
Well, I think you grow up pretty quick being involved with around that many men, and it seemed like it went pretty fast, the time at that time, when I was young like that.
Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you want to add?
Well, I don't want people think that I was a hero or anything like that, but the worst scared I ever was under some heavy artillery firing at Toul, France. I suppose we was under fire from Germans, which were
They were on another side of the river.
yeah, they was on those. They Toul was about 20 miles from Nancy, France, and that's in 1945 in January. We went there and went up to Metz, France, and that's right after the Battle of Bulge, which I wasn't in, but we went up to Metz, France, and I'd never seen any Germans, laying on the ground, but I saw two while I was up there where they hadn't picked them up yet, and I don't know how long. We went up to, I went down, I can't think of the town I was in up there in France, northern France, and we got on our convoy. We came back down the Rhine River. Of course, the Germans was over on the other side of the river, but I don't know how far that was, but we came back to, I can't think of the name of the crossing that I went across the Rhine River and went over into Germany. But I can remember being up there on the west bank of the Rhine River, and they was shooting. I don't know if they're shooting at us, but there's shells coming right across our outfit, whether they're shooting at us. And we got down somehow and got down and got across that bridge. It was, the bridge had been blown out, but they had, crossing the Rhine River there, they had pontoons or something.
So a pontoon floating bridge.
Yeah, floating bridge. I remember going across that. And
so when the Germans were shooting at you with all these mortars and things, how long did that last?
I think about an hour and a half. Yeah, how all that started, we saw them going into, we just pulled into where it had been a French airport at Toul, France. And there was some airplanes sitting around there that was disabled, and the Germans just left them there. But they'd gone, but they was only a mile about away. So they hadn't left very long when that took place. And we got off 4 shots. 4 shots at them per gun, so that would have been 16 rounds of ammunition of these 90 millimeters firing at them. Normally we fired at airplanes, but in that particular case we was firing at them leaving. They was in a wooded area over there, and I think we was pretty much zeroed in on them. But boy, it just like hitting a hornet's nest with a stick or something. They really came back, So we didn't fire any more shells. At that time I was on a machine gun crew. There was 3 of us in there, and I was a gunner on one of those 50 caliber water cooled machine guns, and it got so they was hitting right in among us there, and everybody left their position. They blew up all these big anti-aircraft guns of ours, and a bunch of ammunition, and I guess there was shrapnel flying every place. But where they bombed that, previously bombed that airport, there was a bomb crater there, right there where my gun position was. And I was the only one got over there. I don't know what the other guys did. We hadn't been in there long enough to dig us a trench to get down in to protect ourselves, under the ground. So I run and got over in this bomb crater, and I can remember there was some big clods down in there, and I tried to get in behind those things, and boy, I tell you, I thought sure it was one of those was going to hit in the top of that thing and throw shrapnel down on me and kill me, And I remember I wasn't a Christian at that time, but I had been, but I wasn't at that time. And I started praying that I'd survive, and I know I was really scared. I can't remember what took place. Oh, we went to Nancy, France, and up to Metz, and that's when before we got over into Germany. And I was in Frankfurt and some of those towns over there, and I can remember going in through there in convoys. Those towns were really tore up. They had bulldozers that was bulldozing out a path for these trucks to go through. As we went through those towns, I remember that. I remember after that shelling there at Toul, France, we went to Nancy, and the convoy was just one vehicle right after another for about, I'd say about 15 miles. It was a lot of equipment moving down the highway over there in France. I don't know if it wasn't in that, but one place over there, I don't know if I think it was in France. This convoy that I was in, moving down the highway to move to a different position, there was German planes coming in, low strafing this convoy, and I was riding in the back, up on top of a lot of this 90mm ammunition, and an army truck had a cover over the truck, and it was pulling a power plant on a four-wheel trailer, very heavy trailer, and these trucks were getting ready to pull over to the side of the staggering down on the highway, and I was trying to they stopped for us to get off and get over into a ditch along the side of the highway, and I jumped off the back of that truck before it actually got stopped, and I didn't clear the trailer. The trailer, one of the wheels run over my army shoe and tore off the heel, and I think about half of the sole, and it just coming in, just very close to crushing my ankle, and I probably didn't been disabled for the rest of my life, but the good Lord was looking after me again. Those are two experiences that I felt like after they happened, that, oh boy, I tell you, that the Lord had a hand then, you know, me surviving something like that. But I went around there with I took a string and tied it around my shoe to they kept an extra pair of shoes, but they was way back on another trailer, and as soon as we got to a place where we could stay overnight, they went back and got me a pair of shoes, but that was pretty close to being crippled up there. That's about the closest I came.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking about your experiences during World War II.
You're welcome.